What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Coming off of a really nasty night in baseball for me. A good night in basketball. I don't know how. I guess playing Dame was probably the answer to that question, but
yep.
I honestly couldn't figure. And Romeo Langford. I guess that worked out well for value. So, but I really couldn't figure out how I cashed in so many things in basketball, and somehow it happened. But baseball was a nightmare for me. Sheets, it sounds like you had a little bit more of a sweat than I did.
Yeah, I did all right on DraftKings. I played like 6 lineups in that 111, and one of them got like 18th. And I actually had a couple of chops at it at the end. I had like a one-off on. I had like Kansas City stacked and the Nationals stacked, and they both went off. And I had a one-off, but just kind of random one-off with Jonathan Villar, who had a couple of pokes at it. Didn't if he had a home run, I probably got him first or something like that. But that probably somebody else would have gotten it. I don't know. But yeah, I did all right there. I didn't do as well in basketball as you did. I didn't have that much Dame. I did have 0 LeBron, which I guess worked out, but I couldn't quite get the right. I didn't have Harden. You know, it was tough for me. But so today we're gonna do baseball, basketball, golf, and then I'm not gonna be around for live tonight because I'm going to the Knicks game.
Beautiful.
So that should be fun.
They can pull it out and make this game a series again.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
That's awesome though. Yeah, ready to get going game by game whenever you're ready. Unless you have any general thoughts on the slate.
No, we can do game by game. Let me just pull up my. Again, I'm still going to continue to use the DraftKings lineup page. And hopefully go back and forth into the other stuff.
Yeah, to that point, real quick, guys out there, like first of all, thanks so much for a lot of nice words and a lot of messages about the site. Really give us some feedback. We're still figuring things out and putting things together and getting things organized in the right spot. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if you tell us, hey, this could be like this, or I want to see more of this. We want to make this something you guys are loving. So just give us any good feedback that you want.
And the other thing I will turn you on to, by the way, I mean, we're doing this baseball slate preview. Pierce put up a whole freaking just data-driven breakdown of his spreadsheets for today. And very, very analytical, and you know, I wish I had time to go through it today because I could probably use a little bit more of that. So yeah, I turn you guys on to that. We're starting to give you guys some options for what type of baseball content you want, which is good. I mean, like you could do as you'll be able to get as little as you just want Bobby's plays of the day, go over that. You know, you want like kind of a slate breakdown, you can go to us. You want to look at Pierce's more in-depth breakdown, you can look at that too. So there's plenty of, and if you want to go to the live stream, you can go do that. So there's plenty of baseball for you to pick at.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, obviously we're wrapping up shortly on NBA. We're not wrapping up, but we won't have as many big tournaments. But it is you know, by the time the next season rolls around, we're gonna have a whole different section for NBA and a bunch of things, tools that I'm trying to work on. Anyway, Sheets, you ready to get going with it?
Yeah, let me share my screen here. We will get going. And right out of the gate, we have Matt Harvey, right? So Minnesota didn't exactly come through for people last night, but they get another shot. If they can't get to Zimmerman, let me tell you this: if they can't get to Zimmerman and Harvey back to back, I mean, then they got issues. But I'll give them another shot as chalk, I guess. They're going to be pretty highly owned. They're going to be a really, really top option. The combination of people liking to play Minnesota and also liking to go against Matt Harvey will make these guys very popular alongside of the Texas and Colorado's thing again. But just make sure you know who's playing. You know, Larnach didn't start, but he got to pinch hit yesterday.
Larnach will start for sure.
So he'll play, and I don't know if Ref Snyder is going to play. But, you know, the guys who I know are going to play, I presume, are going to be Cruz, Donaldson, and Sano, which is, you know, a good amount of the power nowadays. What's his name? Algerson Simmons at 2,100 is probably a decent value play. That's where and not that it mattered, but I had like all the Mitch Garver last night, and he got one at bat before he got hurt.
Yeah, that hurts.
It was a little annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, Minnesota's totally in play. And I'm interested to hear if you have any comments on on Dobnak only because I know Pierce was talking about him a little bit. I didn't really get to him, but what are your thoughts on Baltimore? Anything? It says Matt Harvey projected opener now.
Sorry, that's when did that? Wow, that just came.
That's a little different, isn't it?
It's a little different, but they do have a lousy bullpen. You have probably one of the. Let me just double check my pitchers umpire data here. Yeah, you've got Field Goldberg. Like he's an extreme hitters umpire too.
Okay.
Which I think people are gonna like Dobnak, but I don't think there's anything special about like picking that play out. I'm not gonna do it with the extreme hitters umpire probably, but again, pitching on this slate is not the most beautiful thing in the world, especially in the lower tier. So I understand it against Baltimore, but I'm not in love with it. I'm gonna probably be underweight on Minnesota. Well, I'm not probably. I like Minnesota, but I don't want to play just a massive chalk on a big slate where you're talking about a very minimal run difference, even projection-wise, than them and other teams. The thing that they do have is they've got the value now that you want to. So they're cheap and they can hit, and they theoretically have a lot of power. It's probably worth noting that a lot of these guys have kind of underperformed this season. So we might be a little bit stuck on the name value, but my favorite plays on their side are actually Larnach is the number one play by far for Minnesota for me. And Kirilloff number two. Then it would be Cruz, Donaldson, Sano. Maybe Sano ahead of Donaldson, actually. Cruz, Sano, Donaldson. Yeah, so that's the way I've got it.
All right, you wanna then move on then?
I think that there's more of a case for Baltimore here than
all right, go for it.
Breeze over. Okay, so I mean, look, the prices are a little weird. Freddie Galvis stands out as he's actually having a good season, reasonable enough amount of power for a guy who nobody really thinks of. Not incredible. Santander I have on my list as just being too cheap and another power bat in the outfield against Dobnak. And it's not that Dobnak's anything like absolutely awful. You have great hitting conditions in a great hitters park with the hitters umpire and a really, really, really cheap, fairly like I actually kind of I don't want to say hot, but they've hit the ball well. They've been hitting the ball hard lately. Mancini obviously would be the spend up from the team, and those were the three that stood out the most. But I do sort of like a mini Baltimore stack, and I'm definitely considering it. And you get like no ownership on these guys, which is really nice. Ready for that? You want to start it off with the Tampa Bay, New York here?
Yeah, I didn't get much of anything. I had this game as kind of a cross off. You want to try to talk me into any of it?
Nah.
Maybe Tampa a little bit.
I don't know why we aren't playing the Yankees.
Yankees a little bit. I don't know. I have them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean like 8th, 9th. Should they be better than that?
I'm interested in the Yankees here. I'm a little confused, I guess, by the run projection. It's always different with these young guys, and you don't know. Like, I don't know. I just am not going to just sit here and bow down to Shane McClanahan like in his first trip to Yankee Stadium, I believe, right? I know a kid's supposed to be good and everything. I don't see why we wouldn't be playing the Yankees against any lefty at home, really. I don't think I'm the only one who's going to do that, but I have the Yankees as a much higher rated stack.
Okay.
And I like the idea that Judge is going to be low owned because of his price. Stanton will be really popular, but I like him a lot. DJ LeMahieu has gotten cheap. Sanchez. And then you could always mix it in with Frazier or Andahar or Urshela. All really, just cheap options. I think they're an interesting stack, but mostly I think I'd be leaning towards maybe the Judge, Stanton, maybe like a 3-man stack from this game because I don't want to like go crazy against him. But look, it's the Yankees in Yankee Stadium against the lefty, and that should be enough said against almost any lefty. They even Glass now got him eventually, but they even were they looked pretty good against him last night. I think it's worth taking a shot here with the Yankee stack. And like I said, I think there's ways you can do it that are going to get lower ownership because I do think LeMahieu, Sanchez, and Stanton will get some ownership. I just don't think that Judge, Glaber, or Urshela are going to get anything. So that's what I've got in this game personally.
So, welcome to Alek Manoah Chalk Night. Is that the? the theme of the next game. To me, he's like tied with for he's in my player pool. You know what I mean? I don't think he's anything particularly terrific. I have him in my player pool. I have him rated tied for third with two other guys pretty much. But nothing spectacular. Miami always, people like to play guys against Miami. I don't think I have particular interest in playing a 10K pitcher against Toronto, so I don't believe Lopez is going to make my player pool. Interestingly, I mean, it looked like you were gonna be dead right on it. The Toronto spend up yesterday. They got off to a flying start, right? But I don't think I had Toronto rated all that well today. Sorry about this. Oh, I'm good.
I had to pause.
Sorry about that. Now we're off pause.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just not a lot. I mean, so Manoah definitely my player pool, my pitcher pool, not like my top priority, but he's in there, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'll definitely take the shot with Manoah here. Plus, we can say we played Manoah and Manaya. That could be your little.
Oh, I like that.
So I like Pablo Lopez as a pitcher. Again, I'm kind of confused by the run projection against this Blue Jays team. I just always feel like it should be higher when they're playing in this park. And I know Pablo Lopez has been good and I think he is good and has been good. I am more than willing to take shots with some of these Toronto guys. The ones that stand out. The problem is like you're hard because it's hard because they're so expensive. But I'll just keep playing like 10% of Vlad every day in bad matchups and then 30% in good matchups. It doesn't really seem like it matters much to him what the matchup is. So Vlad is the one who I would try and target. I don't mind Bichette. Oh, sorry, Vlad and Bichette. Bichette is too cheap at 4,800. So those are the two I've got from this game that I'm most interested in. Otherwise, you can get to them easier on FanDuel. But I don't really know if I want to do a full stack against Lopez. I'm always going to have interest in these bats in that stadium. Just simple as that. It's just too good of a park. And I'm not going to make the case for Miami today. I will just say Corey Dickerson is I think a reasonable play at 4.1.
Well, I will say this. So you mentioned when you were talking about Sean McClanahan that it's to have a guy come up for his first trip to Yankee Stadium is difficult. So Alek Manoah in his first lifetime start comes up to Yankee Stadium and pitches 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks at 4,300. So I'm fading him.
All right, I fading him against Miami. I get it. All right, well, this is an interesting game. I think this is where we want to be today. This next game, Washington, Atlanta. I don't think I'm going to be alone in this. I think you're going to get some extreme ownership on a few guys here. But oddly enough, my early projections don't look like it's going to be quite as highly owned as I would have thought. People, I think, will play Josh Harrison because he's cheap. He's 3K. People are going to play Acuna because he's the best. And people are going to play Trey Turner because it's a lefty. I love all of those guys, but throw in, let's just stack up both sides of this game. I especially want to try to attack Leicester. I think Atlanta is the perfect. I just think they crush them here tonight. They're my top stack. And I don't mind, throw in the lefties, use everybody. You've got speed and power upside, Albies, Dansby Swanson. I mean, in order, it'd be Acuna, Freeman, Albies, nothing special. Riley, Swanson in that order for me. I don't mind mixing in Contreras at no ownership as a catcher. He's a little expensive, but we can do it. Almonte's batting 6. He is 2K, so you can include him in your stacks to get cheap. I really like Atlanta. And Smiley is weird. Like, I actually, because of the way the pitching is on this slate, I was actually considering, could I consider playing Smiley here? I don't think I'm going to do that. But you have a great pitchers umpire in this game. I still love Atlanta. It doesn't really take me off of them. And I could see Smiley having a decent outing against I think a kind of a semi-overrated Washington offense. certainly streaky. I mean, but still, I like why. I think what you do is if you're looking at guys like Harrison and Turner or playing them as a like just don't make them a 2-man. Like they're going to be really popular. So throw in a Juan Soto who's not projecting to be owned. Smiley's given up plenty of power to lefties over the years. I don't think I'm going to end up playing Smiley, and Washington's more of a secondary stack for me. But Castro, Gomes, like everybody in this lineup, I don't mind here, with the exception potentially of Schwarber. I don't really like Schwarber against lefties still. I know that he's been better, but not good enough for me. Everybody else, I think, is a really strong play on both sides. But again, I have this weird feeling. I want to dig a little further into this later because Smiley, I just feel like, and he should have a decent history with these guys as well. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to get different at pitcher. And one thing about Smiley is like he has been like, it's not like he's been getting blown up. He's gone, and it doesn't sound like a lot. 4 innings or more in all of the starts he's made. He's gone 6 innings in half of them. He's gone over 5 innings, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he put up 20 fantasy points at the same time. I still get an argument for Washington bats. How about you?
Yeah, I have Atlanta and Washington very similar. I like them. They're not neither of them for me are the top ones, but I definitely think that the Braves will probably have lower ownership than some of the top ones maybe. So they'll be. I like both. I do like Washington. I do like them. Atlanta. I'll throw in Zimmerman if he for Washington also. I'll even go with Heredia for Atlanta, cheapen that up a little bit. If you want to go 4, 5 men or whatever it is. But I do like both. I don't know if I'm going to. What I was going to say is that Smiley I have as very playable. You know what I mean? Like when I say playable, I mean I don't think any pitchers on today's slate are just like must plays. So you got a whole bunch of guys that I don't that I can consider playing, and one of them is Drew Smiley. It's certainly nothing you're going to be excited about, but I think he's in my player pool. And again, I'm going to the game tonight, the Knick game, so I'm only going to probably play 1 or 2 lineups in baseball, in basketball too, really. So I'm not going to be expanding my stuff too much, and I'm probably not going to be playing Smiley. But if you do play 20 lineups, something like that, I would definitely get him in there.
Yeah, I think that's basically exactly where I'm at as well. All right. I want to jump onto Boston and Houston. You want to start this one off?
Yeah, I like Houston here. I think that they're also kind of like a top 5 stack for me. I know Pavetta's can be pretty decent, but he could also be pretty indecent. So I don't know. I feel as though their ownership could be lower than than some of these other teams like Atlanta. It could be lower than teams like Minnesota. And I think they have they're in my top 5. I'll just put it that way. Alvarez, Tucker, Bregman, I guess, Altuve, Correa. I mean, everybody is in play. It depends on how much you want to spend in there. And I didn't, and with respect to the pitching, I do have again, Valdez as someone that's in that secondary list, so I would go with him. I am not getting to Pivetta as a pitching option today, but I'll play. I would play again 20 max. I would expand to Valdez, and I would definitely consider Houston a close to a priority stack for me.
Yeah, no interest in Houston for me. I don't want to play a mega chalk stack against a good pitcher. So I understand he can have bad outings.
So you think they're going to be chalky, Houston?
I've got guys projected at like 30, like crazy.
Okay.
Like stuff that, it's one of those things that maybe it's a mistake. It doesn't end up that way by the end of the day. But my first reaction in seeing it just makes me want to, I almost still just eliminate the game. It's baseball. You know what I mean? It's not, we don't need to do it for me. Unless I really love it. Of course, Alvarez and Tucker especially stand out and making sense. But I think there's something wrong with the way people are looking at stuff with Pivetta. It's not, first of all, he has gotten better, I believe. He's been, I actually want to say fairly good this year. Just in general, he gives up hits. His walks are an issue at times, mostly with lefties. He doesn't give up. He's only given up, 4 home runs this season in 11 or 12 starts. I don't want to just I'm not treating that like that means everything, but I don't want to just go and act like he's somehow some gas can who's just going to get lit up. So I'm more on the Pivetta side, honestly, in this game. And I just because, like you said, I have Pivetta and Valdez are perfect examples for how I feel about pitching on this slate. They're guys that you can use. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to say it. They both make sense. I do think Pivetta carries a bit of upside with him. And this Houston lineup is a little better in name recognition than it actually is. I mean, you've got with McCormick at the bottom and Miles Straw and Gurriel and Maldonado. Everywhere they're down in the lineup other than Tucker, I guess, is just meh. It's not the same lineup anymore. George Springer isn't there anymore. So I'm just off the Houston side of it. But I do like Pivetta a little bit. I think I might end up even prioritizing a little bit more Pivetta going on. Later today. I also want to point out something about last night before we jump to the next game, because last night I've never seen Colorado guys in 3 or 4K batting second, third, whatever they're batting, and they're owned 1% on DraftKings. Literally, it was 1%, 2%. McMahon was 5%. I don't care what happens. Whenever that's going to be the case, I may have lost on almost all my tournament entries last night, but I felt terrific about what I did. Just trying to attack that. I know a lot of these guys aren't excellent hitters, but if you can get that ownership in Coors, you kind of want to take advantage of it. And I mentioned that as a segue because this is a spot. This is not going to be unowned today. You're going to get a very chalky Coors today. I am going to just say what I always say. I think that people give too much credit to the team coming in and not enough credit to the Rockies. And I know the Rockies lineup sucks, but you're going to have an extreme ownership gap between Texas and Colorado, and they're both awful offenses. So, Sheets, what are your sort of take on this game? I mean, I would personally rather attack Lyles than Senzatella in a place he actually pitches. And while he does give up a lot of home runs and hard contact, and every time people bring him up on other stuff, I notice they say, oh, Senzatella, but he's pitching at Coors and he gives up all that hard contact. And I'm going, well, he always pitches at Coors. He pitches half of his games at Coors. And as much as we want to say how much he's had one bad outing against the Dodgers where they really got to him. This is not talking about playing him, not like Marquee yesterday. But I just want to point out that he's given up outside of that one Dodger game, he's given up a total of 3 home runs on the season, and he's pitched, in 11 starts. Doesn't really get crazy with walks. He'll walk probably a guy or two a game. So there's my argument for why you fade the Texas side and go more towards Colorado. But that really has more to do with ownership than anything else.
Well, again, as anything else, I mean, you gotta see where ownership tracks, because, I mean, yesterday, we were afraid that I was playing too much. We were playing too much Benintendi. We thought he'd be the chalkiest player on the slate. He was barely 10%. You gotta just
in a 200, he was 17%. That's a pretty chalky for an outfielder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I mean, everybody can't be chalk. So there's Texas, there's Minnesota, there's Houston, there's Washington, there's Atlanta, right? You got to pause this for just a second. Sorry.
You were talking about the chalk, about how you're right. Not everybody can be chalk. That's true. I would make a wager that Joey Gallo and Willie Calhoun end up as 2 of and Nate Lowe.
Yeah, I currently have Texas as the highest owned stack by a decent amount. And then I have Minnesota and Washington next, right? And then I had Atlanta after that. So actually, and so so that's why I was curious when you were saying that Houston was going to be that chalky, in that, I mean, you can't play everybody, right? So I'm just curious.
It's more Jordan Alvarez, Carlos Correa, Altuve. Well, I guess that's a lot of guys. I have 5 guys projected to be double-digit ownership, and I think they're accurate on Houston. So, but again, you can have double-digit ownership on multiple guys. You know what I mean? It's chalky in baseball. I'm on a big slate when I say that, and people have asked me this in chat, so maybe it's a good time to mention it. I'm talking about, let's say 15 to 25% on a slate like this.
Oh yeah, that's plenty chalk. That's chalky for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, anything over 10% on really big slates, you can argue is fairly chalky in baseball when it comes to hitters. So, anyway, sorry, Sheets, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So they do rate to be they do rate right now tied with Minnesota as my top stack. But again, with ownership, I mean, these are the two chalkiest stacks also, right? So I would probably try to think of what I'm going to do. And again, I'm probably playing two lineups. I'm going to have to get another ownership check. You know what I mean? Like, because it's probably going to be one of those five, maybe between like Texas, Minnesota, Houston, Washington, or Atlanta. Because then after that, I mean, I guess you could play the Yankees, like you were saying, maybe Colorado, like you mentioned there. I don't know. We'll see. But I do like. I do like Texas, you know. But with the ownership, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not the greatest idea in the world.
Just an ownership. Also, when ownership is high on a team that strikes out a lot, you can always. Those are the ones you should feel comfortable fading. And Joey Gallo's like that kind of a guy. You should always play him at low ownership. You should always fade him, or you should always consider fading him at high ownership. Although this matchup sets up pretty well for him. That's just the way that I look at it with Texas. And you know what? As we saw last night, there's a million ways you can get there in baseball. I mean, I thought I was made in the shade with, I mean, obviously the Dodgers didn't get there, but I had my Dodgers stack with literally two guys that had combined 3%, that each hit 2 home runs. And there was plenty of it. No, they weren't on any winning lineups. There's a million other ways you can get there. So I'm personally just siding against Texas because of the lack of pitching today. I like a lot of offenses, but I mostly am going to be focusing on Colorado and Atlanta. That's my main teams to stack today.
Well, you get another chance. You want to try Dodgers against the washed up Carlos Martinez? You can try that.
We'll see how washed up he is, but I actually am interested in that as well. But I really like this. I do think this Colorado side being unowned again is just a little too appealing for me. It's just weird to me. Like, I mean, I think Diaz will get some ownership, or sorry, Daza, Jonathan Daza will get some ownership because it's 3.1 and he's in the outfield. I think he'll get some ownership on Cron, and maybe I should take this moment to give a tiny bit of credit to Jordan Lyles for pitching much better this season, especially lately. But I am absolutely not afraid to attack him. And one thing about Jordan Lyles that I love, he fits the perfect guy to pick on because you can run on him and he gives up a ton of home runs. I mean, he gives up like over a stolen base a game. That's like hard to do. Like, unless that's like the old John Lester stuff. You know what I mean? So Tapia actually gets a little bit of a boost. I really like Ryan McMahon. You can always play the lower owned Nunez, Fuentes, in there. Brendan Rodgers fits in at short and he's cheap. I mean, these are not the most exciting individual bats outside of McMahon and maybe Tapia. But I do think that this stack gets really, really overlooked, and I don't think anyone's going to play Charlie Blackmon. And I just think it's kind of interesting to do that, and that's where I'm at.
Okay. Speaking of the Dodgers, first of all, how come like Walker Buehler always gets the softest slates? In other words, he always pitches when there's like no other good options for him to fight against. Right. So I like him. He's my top pitcher, and I'm not particularly excited by it either. But he's like the top of like all the options. You know what I mean? Like if he were against like a whole bunch of like guys like we had the other day, like where all the best pitchers were like just looked amazing, then he might not even get played by me. But on a slate like this, I mean, he's a great real life pitcher. He's very solid, and then he's probably the best play. I'm probably gonna be playing him.
Yeah. I honestly, like, my first time going through this slate, like I was like, what? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do if I'm not playing him here. Like, you've got plenty of value. It's not like you love it either. I'm not expecting to go there and put up 30, but 20 is probably a safe 20 feels fine to me.
Yeah. I'll take 20 for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, looking at some of these other options that I've talked about, I'd probably take 15. Mm-hmm. But I do like Buehler a lot. So, and again, like you said, not everybody's going to be able to be played. I will just mention again, it's not the best hitting conditions here. The Dodgers bats have been a little bit not quite as exciting, explosive as we'd hoped for. But I mean, we haven't had Bellinger most of the year. Seager still isn't back. But I'm right back. I'm right into going back to the Dodgers too. They would be my third favorite stack behind Atlanta, then Colorado.
All right. So,
how about you?
No, I didn't get to them, but I can't imagine why I wouldn't play him. You know what I mean? Like right. It's Carlos Martinez is very, he's got, like I say about some of these other guys, I mean, he's got tricks. You know what I mean? He's somehow manages to limit stuff. But Dodgers can certainly score 15 runs today. You know what I mean? Like it's certainly in the range of outcomes. Let's say that.
One good thing for going for Martinez and one reason not to go crazy with the Dodgers potentially. First of all, the reason you like him, you want to stack against him in general is because he walks a lot of guys.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't want to stack against him is this is another guy who's allowed just 3 home runs this whole season.
Right.
You could say he got lucky. You could say whatever you want, but I mean, and you look at his outings. Look at his. Listen, I mean, 5.55 just when they was coming. You know, then 6, 7 in the third, 8, 5, 6, 6. I mean, he's going deep into games and not giving up a lot of hard contact. So I'm not like that's why I'm a little bit lower. Although a pitcher that pitches the contact, or especially a righty against this Dodger lineup, should be a recipe for disaster. But at the same time, like I'm not going to ignore the fact that he's just been pretty good at limiting damage. Like you said, he's got some tricks. So favorite play on the Dodgers would be Gavin Lux, by the way. You're going to hear me saying that a lot as long as they keep him cheap and he's going to be low owned. But the obvious ones are Betts, Turner, Will Smith, and Bellinger and Muncy. Those guys are all awesome. And you can use McKinstry if you want to get creative with your stack.
So moving on to the last game, I mean, for me, if you're playing single entry or even 3 mats, I mean, you're playing either Buehler Manoah or Buehler Manaea, or Manaea Manoah. You know what I mean, depending on what you want to do. But for me, I mean, considering that I kind of like fading the Manoah thing, I'm probably just going to put pay for Manaea. I guess like on its face, it's probably pretty expensive, but it's all relative to the rest of the slate. You know what I mean? So. He's certainly doesn't have to do anything. I mean, he could score 12 fantasy points. He could score 20, 25, whatever. But he's just, to me, the safest of the options. I mean, Seattle does, put up games from time to time, but, it's between Manoah against Miami, which is a really great matchup, and Manaea against Seattle is a really good matchup. I really can't argue with either of them. So for me, I'm going to eat the chalk and either go Buehler Manaea or Buehler Manoah, and that's probably much good.
But then you don't say you went Manaea Manoah.
Manaea Manoah.
It just feels like it just feels good to say it.
Well, I was going to say that Manoah is like really good. If the weather is bad, he put up his best ceiling performance in like flood-like conditions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the pitching on this slate is bad enough to where you're sort of considering everyone, and that includes Chris Flexen. I mean, that's where we're at today. It's just I'm not paying down at pitcher. I just think I just want to get out of pitching with my points today. Let's just get out of there safely. Maybe I'll get a little bit tricky with a Smiley or a Pavetta here or there. And
my God, just stop for one more second. Sorry. Okay.
So you were saying about we were talking, well, let's just talk about the bats in this game then, I guess. Is there
what I was going to say, by the way, was that, I had this conversation about dad jokes once before, that like it depends on who's saying it, whether it's a dad joke or not. So the one I guess nobody caught that one as it slipped up when I said that Manoah's ceiling performance under flood-like conditions. That was like a Noah's Ark reference or something like that. So that's sorry about that. That was pretty bad. No. But it's only bad if people get it, and then if they get it, then they can say it's bad, I suppose. So I actually do like the Oakland bats a little bit as a secondary idea here. Again, 20 max. I am totally into the Oakland. As a matter of fact, I mean, now that I'm talking through it, if I just conceded that I was going to play the chalky pitchers, why am I then going to play the chalky hitting? It makes just no sense. Right. So I probably will. You know what? That may be what I'll do. Maybe I'll play the chalky pitchers, and then just late night hammer it with Oakland. You know what? That's probably a good idea. I think that's what I am going to do, actually.
Yeah, I kind of like that, by the way. Oakland certainly makes a lot of sense to me. You've got like Mitch Moreland. I know he's been bad, but he's 2.6K. And like Flexen is not a guy we should be scared of. Again, you have a pretty low K strikeout pitcher against a team that's their issue. So, or one of their major issues. So I'm obviously going to have some interest in them here. It's hard for me to think taking a game, especially in Seattle with all these other games. Atlanta's got a great hitting environment, obviously Coors, that I would want to prioritize these guys over. So maybe I'm just looking for some individual bats, but maybe a mini stack even with a Seth Brown, Moreland for cheap, and then you throw in maybe Chapman, or Chapman's been so off flex. I don't know if I could do it. Sean Murphy though you could consider as a medium spend and catcher. Chad Pinder, depending on where he's batting in the lineup. I really would need to see their lineup, and it doesn't tend to come in very early. But there are some plays here. I just don't feel like I want to go for the full hammer stack in this game, in this conditions with a good pitcher's umpire. But I get it. I like it. I just think I prefer the other sides better.
All right, so these are going to be my two options. This is how I'm talking through this. So the pitching, I'm going to chalk out. I just am. I'm playing one or two lineups. I'm chalking out. I'm taking one of those. I'm taking probably either Bueller Manoah or Bueller, the other one, Manaea. And with hitting, I am going to fade the best plays, which are Texas, Minnesota, Houston, Washington, Atlanta, and it is going to be either Oakland or if you told me for sure that Colorado was going to be low owned, maybe that would be it. So it's either Oakland, Colorado, and then somebody you had mentioned earlier, and that will be Baltimore. Those are going to be the three low owned stacks to go with the chalky pitchers, which would not offend my anti-chalk sensibilities.
Yeah, I'll go back with my Atlanta, Colorado, mini Dodgers. Although I'm less interested in that, I think that I thought I was at first. And then I would say the Yankees and Baltimore.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's. We got a busy day, so we're gonna get to some NBA and then some golf. Good luck to everybody out there, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Don't forget to give us some feedback on the site. We want to make it as, again, we're improving things, but we want to make it as comfortable, as easy for you guys as possible.
Sounds good.